Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Gas South District's That's the Ticket, the ultimate podcast exploring all things Gas South District and a source for insights to events on campus and discussions on the wider entertainment and tourism industry. Please welcome the host of our show, Stan Hall, CEO of Gas South District and Explore Gwinnett.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of That's the Ticket, where we bring you the stories behind the action happening right here at Gas South District and beyond. I'm your host, Stan Hall, and today we're talking about a project that has brought creativity and community spirit right into the heart of Sugarloaf. The new artistic crosswalks are more than just a way to safely cross the street. They're a reflection of who we are as a community and how partnerships can bring meaningful ideas to life. I am excited today to be joined by Alyssa Davis, who is the Executive Director of the Sugarloaf CID, and Alexandra Sorto, the artist behind the beautiful design called Quilt. Together, we'll explore how this project came to be, the partnerships that made it possible, and what it means for Gwinnett. So, first of all, welcome both of you. Alyssa, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. Where did the idea for the Artistic Crosswalks project first come from, and what inspired the CID to pursue it?
Well, thank you, Stan, for the opportunity to be here to talk about this exciting project. The original idea came from a Livable Centers initiative plan that was funded by the Atlanta Regional Commission, and that plan was focused on transit improvements. We wanted to improve transit access to the Gas South District because it is such a huge destination, not just for Gwinnett, but for the entire metro area. And so most people couldn't even find the bus stop before. So the idea behind this project was to bring the stop right to the crossing at the Gas South District entrance, to upgrade the crossing, to make it more visible, and put in a new bus shelter. At the same time, we were installing the artistic crosswalks to let drivers know that people are crossing here and to be on the lookout for pedestrians. So it was improving safety and making it more beautiful at the same time.
Absolutely. And you talk about partnerships. They're such a big part of projects like this. Can you share who all was involved and how those collaborations came together?
Yeah, so the initial conversations were really between the Sugarloaf CID, Gas South District, and Gwinnett DOT. We came together to take this project from an idea and a plan to something that we would actually build together. It was about the three of us sitting down, talking about who would do what and when, and then getting it done. So the county took charge of moving the bus stop and putting in the shelter. And then the CID and the Gas South District worked together to bring in the Hudgens Center to put together a call for artists to find an artist to design the artistic crosswalks. And that we also worked in partnership with the Hudgens Center to get a creativity fund grant for this project that is supported by both Gwinnett County and Explore Gwinnett. And it was really a great example of multiple organizations coming together to create something beautiful.
Absolutely. So we have our wonderful artist here with us today, Alyssa, but talk a little bit before we talk to Alexandra. Walk us through that process of selecting the artist. How did you identify Alexandra, ultimately decide if her design was in fact the right fit for Sugarloaf and what we were looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the CID created that call for artists in partnership with the Hudgens Center. We wanted to get it out to as many artists as possible. So the Hudgens Center was the best choice to get it into the network of artists in our community. So we created a review committee that included representatives from the CID, the Gas South District, Explore Gwinnett, Gwinnett County, and the Hudgens Center. We reviewed over 20 submissions, and ultimately Alexandra Sorto's was the best fit from the perspective of really understanding this community, because she grew up here, she's from here, and really understanding what the project represents and what this area is all about. It's a symbol of our vibrant community, and her quilt design, it brings together those cultures that make up Gwinnett County and that are so important to the fabric of our community, and also what the Gas South District and the Hudgens Center represent in their programming.
And to talk about that a little bit from your perspective, why is a project like this important for the Sugarloaf area, Gas South District, and Gwinnett as a whole?
Yeah, so the Sugarloaf CID works on making our district more connected, safe, and attractive. And we're doing all those things in this one project. So we've done a lot of previous studies focused on expanding transit. This project was really about making the transit we already have in Gwinnett work better. And so by moving the bus stop, by putting that new bus shelter, we're creating a better experience for the transit riders in our community. And hopefully we're drawing new transit riders to the Gas South District. We're also creating that visibility that improves safety. And then we're installing a work of art in the process. So it was great to see how we could combine both infrastructure and art. And I hope we can see more of that in the Sugarloaf area and Gwinnett County.
Yeah, I hope so as well. And what do you hope, Alyssa, that residents, visitors, and businesses take away from seeing this artwork in their everyday lives as they come across this property?
Yeah, I think it's so great to be able to bring art into people's everyday lives because, not everybody has the opportunity to make it to a museum or an art gallery to see art on a regular basis. So this is focused on building community and creating a sense of place right where people already are as part of their everyday lives. And also recognizing that our roadways don't have to be just about getting us from point A to point B. They can be beautiful too. So we see this as an opportunity to promote the local art that exists and elevate the artists that are part of our wonderful community, and just creating that greater awareness of art in Sugarloaf and Gwinnett County.
Okay, well, thank you, Alyssa, for sharing the background. So now let's turn to the artist whose vision really brought it to life. Alexandra, congratulations again on having your design quilt selected for the CROSSWALKS. So let's start with how you first became involved with the CID's Call for Artists. Can you just start by telling us a little bit how that occurred?
Yeah, so I'd like to start with saying thank you. Thank you, Stan. It's an honor to have been selected for this project. I got involved first by actually a friend of mine, Kim Town. She works with Swanee. She had sent over to, I believe, Swanee's artist registry, the call for artists. And I was immediately inspired and excited to start designing something for this because I really enjoy having artwork bring community and people and places together. And this one felt like a all-in-one project. I was like, it's beautiful. It's a crosswalk. It's something everyone will see and get to have the opportunity to, as Alyssa just said, when you don't have the opportunity to go out and see art on the walls of like the High Museum or at galleries, it's cool to have art be brought to the public in public spaces where people will be every day and they can think and connect over that it's something colorful that brings joy to their day.
Absolutely. As you two know, you were there. We had a ribbon cutting this morning, but I thought that, Alexander, your comments about the concept were quite interesting. So as to the quilt motif, how does that theme reflect the character of Gwinnett County's community, in your opinion?
So it was said earlier, I grew up in Gwinnett County, and I also am a school teacher in Gwinnett County, and I love the diversity of the people here. And I think it's part of what makes our community really special.
Yeah.
So I wanted to reflect that in a design, and I began with thinking about how my family, like historically in my family, and I know in a lot of people's families, quilts bring those people together through, like I have my grandma, my great grandma passed down quilts. And I was thinking of how these little pieces of people come together to make something greater that like my children will enjoy the quilts for my great grandma one day, just like I have.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started with that, thinking about little motifs that from different cultures, how can I abstract them and pull them together to represent, showing that people can together form a community that's so diverse. And it's interesting and kind of complicated to explain that, but I just felt like I could explain it and do it better in colors and shapes.
You mentioned this morning a little bit about the research you did as far as Gwinnett County is concerned. Talk a little bit about that and how that actually evolved into the design.
Yes. So a mentor of mine, my high school art teacher, actually, Debbie West, always told me the best artists are the best researchers. So I always start with connecting dots of people and places and heritage and history. So I researched first, and I looked at actually the demographics of Gwinnett County. And like I said, it's actually, Gwinnett County is one of the most diverse counties in the state of Georgia. And so I was looking at the demographics of people that make up our county, and I researched the historical quilt motifs from those different heritages. And then I abstracted them, made them my own and pieced them together to be the design that I have put together.
That really is amazing. It's always interesting to hear how an idea starts and how it evolves. So that's very interesting. Thank you for that. So, Alexandra, walk us through how the design sort of progressed from concept to submission, and what was your creative, actually, the process of that like?
So I began with just pencil and paper sketching. But again, the constraint of just the long, skinny, kind of narrow
Mm-hmm.
canvas per se was a little bit of a challenge, but I was excited and I thought about it like kind of like blocks. Like, so my motifs from the different cultures that I had kind of made original in my own, I kind of thought of them like I made little blocks. I had like physical pieces of paper and I placed them together and then like kept playing around with their composition until I liked it and I felt like it had enough rhythm and flow, but also difference between the different things. Um, and that's really how I went from the paper. Then once I had a solid design that way, I got to actually use some of my background in graphic design and I put it into Adobe Illustrator where I then vectored everything. And that's where I actually was able to get it to scale to be the 75-foot and then the 100
Mm-hmm.
foot. And I could see it in the software, really large to that actual scale. And so a lot of refining from just paper, thinking like my little blocks, to connecting it in a larger scale on the vector graphics in Adobe Illustrator.
And we probably did what we shouldn't have done is we gave you some parameters of what it had to look like. I'm just reading where before you got started, it had to meet specific criteria: a color palette, white edge banding, fitting two crosswalk dimensions. How did you all adapt that quilt concept to the technical constraints that we gave you before you ever started? So
Yeah, well, that helped me with knowing what my canvas I was working with. And the banding was I just in my design knew there was going to be some white banding. So how could I, make things kind of thick enough in the design to where it didn't throw it off with the thick banding.
mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't necessarily given a palette, it was a limited number of colors. So I got to choose my own palette, but then I was limited, which that was a little bit of a challenge to get enough contrast throughout the design. But refining it really got it to where it needed to be. And later we had more color changes, but I was happy to be flexible.
The material that was used in this, I know that was specific as well. Did that influence your design decision? Had you worked with that type of material before?
I have not, and I was grateful for all of the help from Gaveco's designers. They were
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. They're the company that provided the
Mm-hmm.
thermoplastic material, and their designers worked with me. I actually got to be really involved. I felt like with every stage of this, with me, Daisy, she's the project manager,
Mm-hmm.
we were able to kind of be all on a Zoom with Big Apple, who installed it, as well as Gaveco, and between all of those stakeholders in this, we were able to decide on how it would become a physical reality and
Mm-hmm.
application working with that material. They did give me colors that they felt would align better with this Sugarloaf CID, with what they have surrounding artworks,
Mm-hmm.
and then what actually was available in that material. So we made changes in that way and refined it just to where all parties were happy and Big Apple could give us the go that they could physically put it on the ground.
Absolutely. So I know you were involved in the process. I was out there with both of you when they were first starting to adhere the material to the asphalt. But as you look back on the installation process, what moments stood out to you the most, and how did it feel to watch your design transform from concept to reality on that actual crosswalk surface?
Well, it was a little surreal to see something I'd like worked really hard on and even like done with pencil become something physical in a space that is so public. So that was amazing to see. But I think the most interesting part that stood out to me from the install was that they got to use torches to actually kind of not melt, but adhere the thermoplastic to the asphalt. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really amazing that once they
Yeah.
got it all laid out nicely, there's big old torches out there. That was fun.
Yeah. So, Alexander, you've done many community artworks across Gwinnett. How does this project related to the crosswalk compare to the previous projects you've been involved in?
Well, in most projects, I physically am the one to install the work. So this project was a little different. It was a little bit, I had to really collaborate with others to get this to be successful. And I also, when I was designing it, knowing someone else was going to install it, it made me think a little like I tried to simplify some of my ideas to make sure it was going to render correctly when someone else was doing it, which is kind of where a lot of the geometric inspiration came from in the design. But it was neat. I think it was really cool. I wish I had an installation team every time to do it all for me.
It really helped out.
Yeah, it was a lot of hands on deck, and they got it done, and were really efficient.
Yeah, exactly. So, what role do you see public art, especially functional art like CrossWalks, playing in shaping communal identity and neighborhood aesthetics?
Well, I think it's something a lot of people can connect with. Like when you see art like this, people, you might not even know. You'd be like, "Oh, and did you see that crosswalk? Oh, like I know someone who did that." Or, I just think it becomes like a conversation starter and things that people can connect over. Like, "Oh, let's meet over by the crosswalk," or something that can bring joy to people's lives, even if they didn't know that I did it or anything about how this project came about. I would just be excited if members of our community can walk across it and think, "Wow, I live in a cool place where the grounds are colored and thoughtful, and I can walk safely, and I can go to many wonderful various events here at Gas South District."
I would think I know a lot of people know that you're an artist, but you're also a school teacher. As you said, as the publicity about this event started to come out a little bit, were people walking up to you and go, "Oh my God, I had no idea"? Did that happen with you?
Well, I had students more like, "That's my art teacher. I'm so excited. I saw your thing, Miss Sorto. I told my mom." So
Um,
yes, it's exciting.
talk about your teaching a little bit as a visual arts teacher and muralist. How do your teachings and creative experience inform your approach to public art?
Well, I believe that as a teacher and someone who, has pursued like higher education degrees, I'm working on my specialist right now. I think it connects me, it puts me in kind of a special place because a lot of artists are a little more like if that's what you do is art and you kind of feel distance, I think sometimes from the communal aspect. So I feel like being in the heart of like teaching and being in the everyday life with community members, that it just gives me the ability to make sure that I'm speaking with others and how they feel about it, but also contributing in a way that feels meaningful, that I know the community members can be proud of, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, if you think a little bit beyond what we're talking about today with the crosswalks, are there other artistic aspirations that you may have for the future?
I am always interested in doing murals, but also in the past, I've done murals with students. I like to get my students involved. I was speaking just with someone at the ribbon cutting today about how could I get my students' art into the new mall, the mall over there. And so I'm always just looking for opportunities, not only to show my own artwork, but to present my students' artwork and to show them that the things we do in class are more than just, coloring. Sometimes I get upset when people think art class is like, "Oh, well, y'all are drawing and painting." But really, my goal is to teach students to think critically and to think about how the things they do can contribute to the larger picture of our
Hmm.
community. So public projects like this help that bring to the light that idea, but also to think about the critical thinking and research that goes into being successful, making artwork that really moves people. So I like to teach them that and to always be aspiring to teach more people about those ideas I have about how art and people coming together can really make meaningful connections.
You and I had a conversation a while back about some other art projects that are taking place in the Sugarloaf CID. Alyssa's team headed up a huge mural on one of the underpasses on
Yes.
Sugarloaf, and you told me that you knew the artist. Is that a pretty small world that's involved in that type of art?
In this area, there are a few local artists who I do know that are muralists, often bidding on open calls. So yeah, it's a little bit of a small community. I actually went to undergrad with one of Krista's teammates who's installing the project.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it is small, but also it's small when you think of local, but it's a big community nationally of people who are going all over the country and putting up murals. So I like to try to stay in the circle with those people and getting to know people like that. They're important to know, but also locally, I would say it is kind of a handful of people.
Yeah. So as you sort of think about the totality of the project and the experience, what do you hope that pedestrians, drivers, visitors feel or think when they experience the quilt crosswalk that you're responsible for?
I just hope they feel joy. I just hope they see the color and know that they should smile because it's a bright, wonderful community to be a part of and to be present in.
Absolutely. I know that'll happen for sure. Alexandra, you talk about your students and then, think about a time where you were in fact that student and influences that you had along the way. As we sit here today, what advice would you give to aspiring public artists or young artists who want to apply for future community projects like the one that you're involved in now?
I would tell them that the best artists are the best researchers, and they need to do their research and know who they're speaking with and what they're making the artwork for, and to focus on their why, because your why will guide your work, and your work will always be stronger if you know your why.
Absolutely. Well, Alexandra, thank you so much for sharing your story and giving us a glimpse into the creativity and heart behind this project. Thank you for your leadership in bringing partners together to make it a reality. Obviously, the artistic crosswalks are a powerful reminder that public spaces can do more than just serve a function. They can inspire pride, spark conversation, and reflect the community that they belong to. So we're proud to see projects like this shaping the future of Sugarloaf in Gwinnett County. And to everyone listening today, thank you for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more stories of innovation, collaboration, and community in the episodes ahead. Be sure to check out gassouthdistrict.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. You can find all episodes of Gas South District, That's the Ticket, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll return soon for another episode of That's the Ticket. Until next time, I'm Stan Hall, and we'll see you at Gas South District.
Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. For show notes and further information about Gas South District and upcoming events, please visit our website at gassouthdistrict.com. That's the Ticket.